All right. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Identity Theft and Cybersecurity Workshop. We're going to go ahead and get our presentation started and allow others to join as they're able to. But thank you for joining us this evening. I am Emily Phillips. I am the Financial Wellness Manager here at Valley Strong Credit Union, and also on the line and one of your presenters this evening is going to be Brandon Kleinschmidt, our Security and Network Manager and our subject matter expert for the evening. If you were not around for this mention, tonight we will be utilizing the Q&A feature that can be found at the top right hand side of your screen. That is going to be used for any of your questions. So feel free throughout the presentation to drop your questions in there, and myself or Brandon will make sure those are answered before we end the call this evening. Well, again, welcome. October is actually Cybersecurity Awareness Month. That is an awareness that is it's an annual campaign held in October to educate the public and organizations about cybersecurity risk and promote safe online practices. We are excited to bring you this information so you can protect yourself and your loved ones. So let's do a quick knowledge check. I'm going to read you 3 statements and ask yourself, are these true or false? All right, first statement is, there is a victim of identity theft every 2 seconds. Unfortunately, we don't have the chat going right now, so I can't see your responses, but ask yourself, do you think that is true or false? There is a victim of identity theft every 2 seconds. All right, hopefully by now you have that answer locked in your head, and it is true. The next statement, you are more likely to have your identity stolen than have your car or home burglarized. True or false? All right, and before I give you that answer, I'm going to go ahead and read you the third statement. In the first half of 2025, the FTC received over 700,000 identity theft reports. The FTC is the Federal Trade Commission. All right. All of those statements this evening are true. So that just shares how common identity theft is, and we want to make sure that we give you some information that you can take with you and protect yourself. Before we do that, let's talk about the real life impact that identity theft has had on individuals. So in a survey by the ID Theft Center, victims said the following quotes. I had to rely on friends and family for assistance. I lost out on a job opportunity. I couldn't qualify for a home loan. I had to request government assistance. And I had to use my savings to pay for expenses. Again, these quotes were all shared by individuals through a survey from the ID Theft Center. Unfortunately, ID theft can cost you time, money, and your reputation. Hopefully no one on the call has experienced those. All right, so it is vital that you take all precautions to protect your sensitive information. Here's some information that you should safeguard. Your social security number, of course, we want to keep that secure. Your date of birth, financial account numbers, password, any personal identifying information, your medical information, government IDs, biometric data, and of course, your email. Some tips to help you protect this information. You can freeze your credit. To freeze your credit, you can reach out to reach out to each of the 3 credit bureaus and request a freeze, but be put on your credit. Make sure that you are always shredding documents that are no longer needed. If the document is something that you need to save, be sure that you are locking that document up and it is in a safe place. Electronics, we quickly move on to the next best electronic. Before you discard that old electronic or maybe give it to another individual, be sure that you have wiped that device clear of all your personal information. And if you're still using the device, make sure that all your devices are password protected. And of course, don't give out any of your personal information. Let's talk about some of the most common forms of ID theft. In 2025, the top three is credit card fraud. Credit card fraud, you probably guessed it. This is when your credit card is compromised and someone is using that to make unauthorized purchases. Usually that means that they don't have your actual physical card. However, they could, but usually that means a card is not present and they have compromised the number and are able to utilize that. Synthetic identity fraud is another popular fraud in 2025. What this is, it's the combination of real and fake information, and that is used to create fraudulent accounts that are not actually yours, but some of your information has been used to create those accounts. And then number 3 is going to be account takeovers, particularly of like your personal tech or payment, person-to-person payment apps. And this is where individuals take over an application and are posing as you. All right. Due to the advances in technology, methods of identity theft are very sophisticated. Some of the forms of identity theft that we have seen today are AI-driven scams, of course, social engineering, which Brandon will talk to us a little bit about here soon, digital and physical theft, and exploiting human behavior. At this time, I am actually going to hand it over to Brandon. Again, Brandon is our security manager here at Valley Strong. He's going to be our subject matter expert and give you some details on ways to protect your information.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. So I'll dive into some of the methods that people use to get your information. One of the big ones, which everyone has seen, is phishing. So phishing is a form of spam, and those are those emails that you get where they're asking for your social security number, username, password, and the way they get you is usually it'll have an urgency to it. And so what they're trying to do is to almost get like a crisis response out of you, an emotional response. They're trying to get you to react before you think. And let me switch that slide real quick. And so this is an example of it from where they're pretending to be PayPal. And what it is they use that threatening language and, oh, you only have 24 hours and you need to get to back to us or we're going to disable your account, or if you want this refund, you need to get back to us right away. And what they're trying to do is get that emotional response out of you so that they can collect your social security number, collect your bank account information, your usernames, your passwords. And so the way you can spot these phishing emails is through the grammar and the generic greetings, but also that urgency is the big one. And looking back at our example, as you can see through that generic greeting, it's, dear PayPal customer, or you may even get one, dear AT&T customer, dear Ford customer, things like that. And usually they'll have a link in there. And if you were to put your mouse over that link, a lot of your email browsers, come up and show you what that link looks like. And sometimes you can tell through looking at that how suspicious it is. Because if you get an email from PayPal, the link should be, paypal.com. If you get an email from AT&T, it should be att.com, things like that. And another way you can tell too is by looking at the from email address, who's sending that email. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten those emails where it is, coming from a Gmail account but claiming to be AT&T or PayPal, or you may even seen ones claiming to be from us but coming from a Gmail account. The easy way to tell is, like why would a major company be using a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or something like that? So sometimes that from address can be a tell for you as well. So like on this example, it's paypal-accounts.com. So that should kind of throw up a red flag for you. And this looks a bit suspicious. And it, overall with both this and our next example of phishing text, they're trying to get that emotional response out of you, get you to act before you think. And it's happened. I have family members that have fallen for it, and then they're calling me up after the fact that, hey, I fell for this. What's my next steps? And when it comes to the phishing text, a big way you can tell is by the link that's in there. So for instance, anything coming from Valley Strong, the link in there should be a valleystrong.com. And generally, if it's from us, it should be valleystrong.com. But also too, if you're unsure, always call the person who claims to be sending it to you, but use a known good number. You don't want to text for phishing. You don't want an email. You don't want to text that email back or text that phone number back because you're going to be talking to the spammer. You want to, if you have that person's contact number, call them on that number you already have. If it's claiming to be from Valley Strong, you want to call us on our 800 number and talk to someone in our contact center to verify it. Never feel embarrassed for reaching out to verify that something is legitimate. And another one that is also very prevalent right now with social engineering is phone scams. And they're, a big one that tends to prey on the elderly right now is one where they're calling up and saying, "Oh, this is your grandson. Send me money. I'm stuck in Mexico right now." Or there's been folks that got calls that, "Oh, hey, I'm calling from the IRS. You have a fine, but if you give me your credit card right now, I can clear this up for you." Or, this is Kern County Sheriff calling. You have a warrant out, but I can clear that up for you if you give me your credit card number to pay the fine. Always, always feel empowered to say, no, no, thank you, hang up, and then call back on, a legitimate number that you have to verify that it's actually, legitimate or not. And then something in that's the same kind of vein is called a romance scam. And that is one where on dating websites and in chat rooms, the scammers will actually build up a fake person, and then they will reach out to other people and start conversations and start building trust. And through that trust building, they will start asking for gifts and money and shared information and things along those lines. And we've had some folks out there that have fallen for this and unfortunately have given away a lot of money. Luckily, through our contacts with Secret Service and other federal agencies, we were able to go back and get that money. But unfortunately, it's not always a guarantee. So it's always best to be proactive and, trust but verify is a very good phrase.
Brandon,
Uh-huh.
before you move on from the phishing emails, we
Uh-huh.
had a really good question from Nick
Yeah.
Strobel. If we can address that. So Nick's question this evening was, for phishing emails, isn't it possible for crooks to spoof an email address so the sender's address is a valid company address or from a trusted source? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, it is. That is called a business email compromise, BEC. And so what happens in that case is someone at a major company or just a company in general, they've fallen for social engineering and they've had their email account taken over. And so then what happens is the scammer will use that email account that they've taken over to send out other emails to try and get people to fall for the phishing. So just some examples would be someone at AT&T falls for phishing, they get their email account taken over, and now the scammer is using that AT&T email to send out to customers to get them to fall for the scam and to give away their information. And so unfortunately, I mean, email filters aren't going to catch that because what's happening is by taking over that legitimate email account of a company, they're utilizing the inherent trust people have in that company. So that, like the AT&T example would be, if one of us received that email from AT&T, we have that relationship with them. We have that inherent trust in them. But even if you have that trust, you still got to stop and think, okay, was I expecting this email? What was I expecting this link from them asking for this information or expecting this invoice from them? I don't have any outstanding invoices right now, so this is out of the ordinary. And so in that case, I would call up the folks I know at AT&T and T and say, hey, is this legitimate? Or are our accounts out of date or anything like that? So sorry, long story short, it is possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but that's why it's important to know all of the other areas that we should be checking as well, like the unusual activity that you mentioned.
Exactly. And the biggest thing is, was I expecting this? That's one of the main things to ask yourself. And then that's where it really is important to reach out to the purported sender through another means. So if it's an email, give them a call. If you get a text, then also give them a call. Because more than likely, if someone has their phone taken over and and their phone number is being used for suspicious text messages, then that also means it's possible their email's taking over and things like that.
Thank you for answering that, Brandon.
Yep, my pleasure. One of the physical ways that you can end up being engineered as well is a lot of the places we go nowadays. They have restaurants, hotels, airports, even on planes, things like that. They'll have a USB port where you can plug your device in to charge, but that also runs the risk of USB is also used for data. So that runs the risk as if you plug your phone into that USB port, if someone has manipulated it, if they put a device in there, then it's possible that they can pull the data off your phone. So it's always advisable to just take your own power brick with you and use your own power brick. That's what I do on a plane. I'm literally sitting there in the seat with my own power brick to charge my phone. Don't trust any other USB port that unless it's a device you own. And one other physical way, which even some folks on here may have gotten caught with, is the way they can get your debit card number, your credit card number a lot of times is through a skimming device. And so what that device is it'll sit over the card reader on a gas pump, They can go on ATMs. I've even seen, I haven't experienced it, but I've seen where even the terminal inside of a gas station at the counter might have a skimmer on it. And what it does is you put your card in there, it will read your card, and a lot of times they'll also have a camera on there pointing at the PIN pad to catch your PIN number as well. And so some of the ways you can keep an eye out for those is, and I do this every time I pay at the pump, is you grab the, well, not grab the card reader, but you kind of wiggle it a little bit, see if it's going to pop off, because the real card reader is embedded into the gas pump and would not pop off like that. And a lot of times too, the gas stations are starting to put a seal on the card reader to help you know that it's the legitimate card reader. And another way you can avoid falling for this skimmer is to avoid using pumps that are out of sight of the cashiers in the store, and make sure it's a well-lit area. And another way too is if you use tap to pay, because tap to pay is encrypted, and so you don't have to put in your PIN number. And do we have any outstanding questions at the moment?
All right. Thank you, Brandon, for that good information. Lisa, we can see that you have your hand up. If I can direct you to the Q&A feature, that should be at the top right-hand side of your profile or your Teams. If you can drop your question in that Q&A field, we will be able to address it for you there. And we'll give you a moment to do that. While we do that, let's talk about the signs of identity theft. So Brandon just shared a lot of information on us on the methods that are being used nowadays, what we have seen, and unfortunately we have seen members experience. So what are signs that you can watch for to maybe know that this has happened to you? That is going to be unexpected denials. So unexpected denials, this could mean you go and you decide you're going to apply for a new credit card or a service, and unexpectedly you have been declined, and that's out of the normal for you. There's no reason that you should be declined. That could be a red flag that possibly your information has been compromised. You'll want to look into that. Unusual activity. This really refers to managing your accounts. So charges on your credit cards or items coming out of your account that you're not sure about, that you did not authorize. Keep a very close eye on those. Also, changes in your credit report or your credit score. Suddenly your credit score drops 50 points. That's usually an indication that something drastic has happened on your credit. That could mean new accounts have been opened, probably not being paid. Definitely something you would want to look into with the credit bureaus so you can see if that's a fraudulent item. A few other items to look for: IRS reports. If you are notified by the IRS that your Social Security number has been used by more than one individual to file taxes, you would need to get that cleared up. Also, medical information, incorrect medical history, or suddenly you are getting bills to collect on medical payments that you did not authorize. Someone could be using your information for insurance fraud or things like that. And then also keep an eye on any lost items. That might mean suddenly your mail is going missing out of the mailbox. Unfortunately, that can happen and that can lead to identity theft. So again, these are signs that you can watch for and red flags to know if your information may have been compromised. All right. Now, knowing the do's and don'ts, that's going to help you protect yourself and your loved ones. So let's talk about some of the do's to start. Again, I kind of just touched on some of these, but monitor your account and your credit report. Practice online safety. Brandon just gave us a lot of good information on how to avoid those phishing emails or text. Practicing online safety. Every time you launch that computer or you grab your phone to maybe download information, be very careful there. Secure important documents. Again, once you are done with that document, make sure it gets shredded appropriately, or if it is something that you are holding on to, but it does have your security information or personal identifying information, make sure that it is locked up. And of course, beware of your surroundings. Some of the don'ts. Avoid using public Wi-Fi if you are going to be accessing any of your personal information. This means, if you go down to your local coffee shop and you're using their Wi-Fi, we love that service that they offer us, but probably not the best time to start going on to all your personal accounts, like your bank accounts, to check your information when you're on that public service. Like Brandon also mentioned, don't click on any unknown links. If you are getting an email that seems suspicious, make sure that you don't click on those links. And do not, in that same vein, do not open any attachments. If you're getting those emails from PayPal and it's saying, here is your invoice, but you are not expecting an invoice, do not open that attachment. All right. So unfortunately, we did talk about how common identity theft is becoming and how many cases the Federal Trade Commission has seen in just 2025. So what happens if it happens to you? What are the steps that you need to take? Make sure that you gather as much information as you can and that you are closely reviewing all of your accounts. You'll then need to report this information to the FTC, all of your financial institutions or where the fraud has taken place, and file a police report with your local law enforcement agency. You will then be given next steps on how to repair the damage depending on what that is. You might be working with the credit bureaus to get that cleaned up. And then it is always recommended to put a freeze on your credit report and to continue monitoring your report moving forward. All right, so we discussed many do's and don'ts. Brandon shared with us a lot of information that we have seen. Again, take this information with you so you can protect yourself and your loved ones. At this time, we are going to browse the Q&As to see if there's any additional questions that we have not answered yet. All right. So Polly Ann, I do see your question there. It is, my credit cards have been compromised many times and I have had to have them replaced. Where are they getting my credit card number and that you are getting unauthorized transactions? Polly Ann, I'm so sorry to hear that that's happened to you multiple times. A little more information would be needed, but it could be from various sources like Brandon shared. It could be either your card might be getting compromised, maybe on like a site that's being used that maybe is not secure, or unfortunately one of those skimmers. I would look for patterns that you might have noticed on your accounts or where the cards are being used fraudulently once they are taken over.
A pattern is the big thing would be, you know, unfortunately, I'm sorry that it's may have happened many times to you. And I'd be curious to know, did you notice the compromise after using the cards like a certain store or with the like at least like a certain website or vendor or something like that? Because a lot of those sites, websites, stores, things like that, they keep your credit card on file or it will be stored as part of their transactions. And so if those transactions get stolen by a bad guy, then they can get your card number that way.
Absolutely. All right, Iris, I see your question. So you're getting calls saying that you are approved for a big loan amount. Is that a sign that someone took my information? If so, what do I do? Iris, I'm in that same boat. I get those calls too. Unfortunately, it can mean a couple different things. We definitely want to do some research on that. Make sure that that company, is that a valid company that's telling you that you have been approved, or is it a fraudulent made up company and they are just trying to get you to call them to hand over your information? So look into that. You want to make sure again that it is not a reputable company and someone has used your information to apply for a loan. It could be that this company just has your phone number off a list and is calling to try to get you to call them and give them your information. Look into who that is coming from. What is the source? All right, Lisa, I don't see your question in the chat yet, but I do still see your hand up. I am going to see if I can allow your mic and we can take your question verbally. Let's see if that works. All right, Lisa, I just allowed your mic. If you're able to unmute yourself, we'll happily take your question. All right, Lisa, unfortunately, we are not hearing you. Again, go ahead and try to locate that Q&A tab. It is at the right-hand top corner of your page. And in there, you should be able to drop us a question. If you get a chance to unmute yourself, please feel free to do it, and we will watch for that as well, or listen for that.
And real quick, just a quick comment on Iris's question is if you're getting those calls on your cell phone, many of the cell phone carriers have made their call protection apps free now. And if you don't already have it, that could be something to look at as well. And if you put that app on your phone, it will help identify if it's a spam call or not.
Yes, great.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. Hi, Lisa. What's your question?
I sent you both emails, my question, because I still don't see the Q&A, but my question is, when you say stealing your data, what data are they stealing?
A lot of times they're wanting to get your financial account numbers, usernames, passwords, social security numbers. The biggest one right now is they want to get account numbers and usernames and passwords, and because that will lead to account takeovers of your financial accounts, because that's really the payoff for them is to try and get that money.
Hey, Lisa, did that answer your question, or is there anything else you would like to add?
You're saying they can get my passwords and stuff simply by stealing my data. They don't have to see it written down on something or typed in, say, something I keep on my computer. They have access to somehow get my passwords.
They don't have access to get your passwords. What they'll do is they'll try and social engineer you, and it'll be they'll send you a link to a fake website. And so an example is they might send you a link to a fake website that might look like on our online banking site to try and get you to put your username and password in there. Or they might call you on the phone and, oh, hey, this is Microsoft. We saw a virus on your computer. Please, if you give us your credit card number, then we can clean up that virus for you remotely. So they try and trick you into giving away that information.
Okay.
Great question. Thank you for asking that, Lisa. And Nick, thank you for sharing where that feature is on the browser. All right, we will continue to monitor the Q&A for any additional questions. But we also wanted to share a resource that we have at Valley Strong, and that is valleystrong.com/security-center. So if you go to our website, this is our security center, and we will house the most common scams, or when we are notified of a new scam, we will put that information there and keep all up-to-date information. That way you're able to keep an eye out for and anything else that might be relevant. Hopefully we will get this recording there too shortly, so anyone can revisit it as well. Brandon, do you want to add to that?
I was just going to mention that we're working on updating our holiday guide, because also generally during the holidays, scams and social engineering, things like that will tick up because everyone's in the spending mood. So we're going to update our holiday guide and get that out on the website so you can help protect yourselves during the holidays.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Wanted to again thank you for joining us this evening. We want to let you know, if you enjoyed this webinar, that we do have another webinar coming up, and that is going to be on October 14th. It'll be the same setup, so a online webinar, and it is going to cover retirement basics. So maybe you're starting to think about retirement or how to best set yourself up. Join us October 14th. You can scan the QR code that is on your screen, or you can visit our website for more information to RSVP. And we hope to see you at that workshop. Now, maybe you're not able to join the workshop. We want to share a resource with you, and that is going to be a source called Silver. This is an online tool that you can use to help prepare for retirement as well. It offers education, planning tools, personalized guidance, and calculators to help prepare you for retirement. All right, so I do see that we got asked to list the security link. Brandon, can you drop that link in the Q&A?
Will do. Give me a few moments.
All right. Well, again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you found some value in this evening's workshop. Again, take this information, safeguard your personal information, and if you ever have any questions or concern, you can always reach out. Keep an eye on that website that Brandon is going to drop in the Q&A. Again, thank you for joining, and with that, have a great evening.